Welcome back to the Wholesome Fertility channel. I'm Michelle Orbitz, an acupuncturist, fertility coach, and host of the Wholesome Fertility Podcast. I help women and couples optimize their fertility using traditional Chinese medicine, holistic health, and mind-body practices. If you're on the fertility journey and want to learn natural ways to boost your fertility, balance hormones, and feel more empowered, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so that you don't miss any future episodes. Now let's dive into today's topic. Today I'm going to be talking about the liver when it comes to Chinese medicine and how it is perceived as a very important organ when it comes to fertility health and menstrual health. And as we know, menstrual health is really the heartbeat of fertility health. And then also as it is seen through a Western medicine lens. I am not a Western medicine doctor, but there is a more conventional way of looking at the liver, which is a bit different, as you'll see, to how Chinese medicine perceives the liver. So in regards to Chinese medicine, the liver plays a crucial role in the body's overall health, and especially has a very important role for women's menstrual cycles and the reproductive health. So the liver's role, according to Chinese medicine, is to ensure the free flow of qi, which is life force vitality, or sort of an energy, but it's way more than that. It also stores blood and is really important to prepare the body right before a woman begins menstruation. It is very much related to emotions, and its emotion is anger. So when the liver is stagnated and is not able to ensure the free flow of qi in the body, it can cause stagnation. And one of the biggest things that causes liver qi stagnation is stress. So it's actually one of the most diagnosed condition and pattern, liver qi stagnation of all patterns. And this actually reflects the state of the world today because we just have so many demands and we're constantly being bombarded with information, news, and the pace that we're going on is not a typical natural pace that we're used to or our ancestors used to have, where we used to be a lot more connected with nature, which calms our nervous system and helps with stress. So some of the common signs, and it could be some and not all, or any one of these really, but if you have a few or a number of these symptoms, it might be showing that you have liver qi stagnation. So you may have noticed that at times when you feel really stressed, you hold a lot of tension in your upper shoulders. That is actually a response to liver qi stagnation. You may have also felt like you're sighing really strongly when you're stressed. That is liver qi stagnation. It's a feeling of fullness in the chest where you feel like you need to blow off steam. If you felt really angry, and I mean really angry, that is definitely liver qi stagnation. Or if you're feeling more irritability that comes and goes, that is also liver qi stagnation. Liver qi stagnation can also impact PMS. So PMS really means premenstrual syndrome. So it could be an umbrella of many different things that can come up. And it doesn't necessarily have to be irritation. It could be other things as well. So one of those things are irritation or fatigue, or just really any symptoms that you have before your period, constipation, bloating, breast tenderness, mood swings. So those are all things that can be really under the umbrella of PMS. Really having any kind of even cramping before you get your period. What that shows is that there is energy that is stuck. And since the liver has an important role of storing the blood and preparing the body for the menstrual cycle, what happens is it also has a role for ensuring the free flow of qi. And when it is trying to do one thing, it's not, and it doesn't have as much energy to begin with, then it's not able to do all of its functions all at once. And of course, it becomes very busy right before a woman has her period because it's preparing that, plus it's doing its regular job of ensuring free flow of qi. So when that free flow of chi is being backed up or stagnated from the tenseness of stress, then it's not able to do its job. And therefore, women will experience PMS symptoms. And what happens now, and what I see often in my practice, is that women do have a lot of stress. So they may show up as having many different patterns at once. So stagnation is considered a full pattern. And then there's deficiency, because sometimes a full pattern can actually cause deficiency, because if something gets jammed up and blocked, that being full, so it's more like a blockage, it can cause the body to not get the nourishment and energy that it requires. So a full type pattern can cause a deficiency. And sometimes deficiency can cause a full pattern. And then what can happen too is when the chi gets stagnated for a very long time, it impacts like the next in line, which is blood. And when blood gets stagnated, it can cause things like fibroids, because then it becomes more of a mass. And so ultimately, liver chi stagnation is one part, but it can continue and progress to something way more severe. It can also impact endometriosis as well. And then liver chi stagnation can also impact the spleen. So the elements of the liver, when it is too stagnated, can actually what's called overact on the spleen. And the spleen in Chinese medicine is in charge of your digestion. So if you've ever been in a situation where you feel really stressed, some people will either want to overeat, and then some people won't be able to eat at all. And sometimes their stress will end up being felt in the gut. And that is your liver overacting on your spleen and stomach, which is your digestive system in Chinese medicine. So conventional medicine sees the liver as having a very important role when it comes to detoxification of your body. It really is the main organ, except of course there's other ones like your colon, but the liver will detoxify a lot of chemicals. And what happens often too is if your colon is backed up, it actually makes the job of the liver in cleansing your system harder. So in order to really take care of the liver, you don't just focus on the liver, you also focus on your gut health. So as we're seeing both in conventional medicine and in Eastern medicine, the liver and digestive system do work hand in hand, even though they're two different systems in the body. But ultimately, the whole body has many different systems that work like a symphony. Now, how this relates to your menstrual cycle is that one of the things that the liver does is remove excess estrogen from the body. So it is important to remove excess estrogen. And nowadays, we also have a lot of hormone mimicking chemicals like xenoestrogens, which are fake estrogens that the body confuses for estrogens. And ultimately, when we start to get something called estrogen dominance, it causes things like endometriosis and fibroids, many different conditions, and it can also throw off our estrogen progesterone balance. And then ultimately, because hormones are this intricate, delicate symphony, it can impact your hormones as a whole. This can also cause irregular cycles, which is obviously very important to regulate when you are trying to conceive. The liver also has an important role in regulating glucose and insulin, which is really important for many conditions like PCOS. There's many different types of PCOS, but most of it, the majority, tend to have a link with insulin resistance. So that is really important as well. Some things that people might feel when their liver is more sluggish is they will feel more sluggish and tired. They'll feel hormone fluctuations. They'll have more PMS. And they might even see some skin issues like acne, where their body is trying to cleanse itself. They might also feel bloated and constipated, and sometimes even might have a little more sensitivity in their right upper quadrant, which is the right section right under the ribs. And ultimately, you want your body to be free of toxins, and you want the energy to flow in order to have an optimal menstruation for women. and really have optimal fertility. So there are definitely things that you can do to help your liver. One of the biggest things, as we mentioned before, is actually managing stress. So in Chinese medicine, we really don't see a difference between the body, the mind, and the spirit. And there are so many different aspects that come together to really create our health. And that is why our mind and how we feel and our emotions are just as intricate and just as important as really what we put into our bodies through food and how we move and our exercise and our sleep. So all of those things really matter when it comes to your overall health and ultimately your fertility health. So some ways you can manage stress is talk to somebody. When you have a lot going on, it's really important because we as humans are meant to connect with others, and it actually feels good for us to connect with community. It's important, however, to find people that you feel safe with and not people that will make you feel worse for feeling your feelings. So it's important to have a safe space to talk and maybe perhaps a community. There are many different communities out there when it comes to fertility health. And you can also find psychotherapists that specifically work in the fertility category. So they really understand the stressors that come specifically from being on the fertility journey. So those are really great to seek out. And there are many people that are professionals in that category. Another thing that is super, super important, and it's something that I actually want to do a whole other segment on, which is breath work. So through breath work, you can actually stimulate your vagus nerve and regulate your nervous system. So it's really, really important to learn how to breathe because through the breath, that is one of the easiest ways to truly communicate with the brain that you feel safe. And then when you create a feeling of safety, your body will automatically feel at ease and it can let go. And you'll also feel like you're thinking more clearly because when your liver is able to ensure that free flow of chi, your body overall feels so much better. Meditation, I am a huge fan, and that is something that I have been doing for many years, and it has completely changed my life. So I highly recommend getting into meditation. You can get into many different meditations, and one of the things, if you're just getting started and you don't know much, is something that I recommend often to my patients and my coaching clients is to look into something called the Headspace series. Headspace is an app, a meditation app, and there's a series on Netflix, and most everybody has Netflix. And they go through many different types of meditations. They explain exactly the science behind it and what those types of meditations do. And then at the end of each segment, they will cover and kind of guide you through that particular meditation that they spoke about. And I highly recommend doing that because then you can try out different forms of meditation. The two main forms are paying attention to your breath or repeating a mantra in your mind. And there are many specific mantras, and a lot of them are seed mantras that you can find from Vedic traditions, which is ancient India. And those work really amazingly. And of course, acupuncture, I'm a huge fan. It changed my own life and it helped me so much. And this is really what inspired me to do it myself and to go back to school for it. Acupuncture is amazing for relaxing, but it's also great for so many other things. But it also can help with moving that energy blockage. So through acupuncture, it ensures more free flow. And one of the things that I noticed when I first started acupuncture was that I came in for my periods. They did regulate. And then I realized, hey, I'm a little less stressed at work. I feel a little better. If somebody says something that's challenging for me to hear, I felt better and I was able to receive it better. So that was one of the things that I noticed. And it was probably because, and now I understand it better, my energy and my free flow of chi was much better since I was going to acupuncture. So that is something that I highly recommend. And then just to keep in mind, things like alcohol and caffeine do get filtered by the liver. So having too much caffeine and alcohol has contributed to higher incidences of inflammation and endometriosis and also fibroids. So the reason being is because those are things that need to get filtered by the liver. If you're giving the liver more work to do and it's going to be taxing, then it is going to impact how it is able to do its job. you ultimately don't want to give it more toxins to worry about. So it really is something that it needs to filter out. So one of the things that you could do if you suspect that you have a more sluggish liver or you need to give it a little more TLC, I would definitely either lower your intake of alcohol and caffeine, and ideally, it would be best to eliminate it completely. Similarly, you want to avoid processed food that have ingredients that you cannot pronounce, all of those chemicals. You also want to avoid environmental toxins, plastics, really things that will also contribute to a heavier load on the liver. And you also want to ensure that you're getting proper sleep. Not only is that going to help your nervous system, but it's also going to regulate your body overall and your overall chi. It's also going to help the liver. So one of the things that the liver does, as I mentioned before, in Chinese medicine is it stores the blood. And I remember one of my teachers early on telling me, teaching the class, that when you lay down, if you're really, really feeling tired and you feel really stressed, just laying down makes it easier for the liver to store the blood, because obviously you're not standing and you're laying. And by doing that, you're actually supporting the liver. So even taking naps sometimes can really help. And there are definitely foods that can help. And cruciferous vegetables are amazing. And these are really important, especially if you have endometriosis or fibroids. They specifically are really beneficial for the liver, but they're also great in eliminating toxins from your colon as well. So cruciferous vegetables are broccoli, cauliflower, and Brussels sprouts. Other things that you can consider are dark leafy greens, and I would suggest cooking them slightly, not overcooking them, but those are actually really beneficial. And it's beneficial to cook because it can help your spleen digest it better. Lemon water is amazing because also in Chinese medicine and in Ayurveda, the taste for the liver is sour. And sour tastes and bitter tastes also support detoxification of the liver. So bitter greens, think about things like that. That will also support the liver. So examples of that are dandelion and turmeric. And as far as herbal supplements, you may have heard of milk thistle. Sometimes they'll have a combination tincture that you'll find in health food stores of milk thistle and dandelion. And one of the things that I also want to mention is that if you are going through IVF, and what I typically will suggest to a lot of my clients is to work on your liver, or maybe have a little time in between treatments if possible, so that you're able to assist and maybe take those herbs like milk thistle and dandelion root, and then also something called sulforaphane, which is made from cruciferous vegetables, and it can also detoxify and support the liver. It's important to give yourself that extra support if you know that your liver is already being bombarded with a lot of excess hormones, which happens with cycles. So it is nice to give yourself a little break afterwards where you're able to assist the body in flushing it out. And magnesium is also a very key mineral to help support the liver's function. So ultimately, you gotta love your liver. I mean, it has an incredible, incredible role when it comes to your overall health and when it comes to your fertility health. So it's important not to bombard it, and really kind of take it as a two-step, to support it with the right foods, to eliminate things outside in your environment or even the things that you're eating, to encourage a healthier, happier liver. So I hope you enjoyed today's segment, and feel free to share this with anybody that you think can benefit from it. Thank you so much for tuning in today, and I hope you have a beautiful day.